Hey guys, this is Allison from AllyKatzkreations. How are you? Oahspe. Before I begin, hit that like button, share, subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. If you get anything from my work, a light bulb, a dot connected, a new book to read, something that has helped you, please consider helping me out. This is really like my last month that I will be doing these readings for a while. I'm not going away. It's just going to be a pause because I cannot pay my bills. So I'm going to be literally off grid. I don't have enough money to pay my phone bill. And that will just ricochet into everything else. So unless I'm cleaning out my house right now, I'm going to hope to have a yard sale or put some stuff online and hope to sell it in hopes to pay the bills. And in the meantime, try to find somebody that will lend me some money until my house is sold. But I could use any and all the help that I can get. So I appreciate it. The Book of Sethantes. Already, we're having that. So we last left off on chapter 10. We're going to start chapter 11. And now came the long journey across the ocean. God said, "Great is thy wisdom, O Jehovah, in the division of waters. Thy barriers provide nations against nations. A refuge hast thou made beyond the waters, and the evil man cannot pursue. But greater still are thy spirit oceans, O Father. The spirits of darkness cannot cross over, and the spirits of newborn peoples are not contaminated. Thou far-seeing, thou bestower of thrift, into the hands of thy gods and thy lords. The master of the ship provided well for the journey, and presently the vessel of fire sped over the water, high above the clouds that cover the ocean. Onward to the west, bleak and desolate through the spirit seas, unseen by mortals. On the far-off borders where the lands come to the water's edge, the Lord of the land of Thuri stood stationed in a ship to welcome God to the great west lands. And this was the land called by the angels in after time, North Gautama, signifying the meeting of nations and the dawn of Cosmon. God came down out of the ship and stood on the land, and light of Ethereal flame descended upon him. And Jehovah spake out of the light, saying, "Hear me, O my son, hither have I brought thee. This land is the last of the circle, even as Waga is the first. Behold, when the earth is circumscribed around about with such as I chose me, I will come hither with a great awakening light to the souls of men. On this land will I finish the dominion of the gods and lords on earth, even as begun on Waga. Through thee and thy lords will I now lay the foundation for my kingdoms. On this land will I raise up a people who shall be fulfilling of that which the hinds of Waga profess. For my chosen shall come out boldly against all dominion, save mine, even Jehovah. Look over this land, my son, and provide until the time of Cosmon. My prophet shall foretell thee what shall happen. Thou shalt look upon the mountains and strong standing rocks, and the thought of thy soul shall pierce them, and the impression thereof shall be as written book before the races of man in the day. Neither shall they know the cause, but they shall come forth in tens of thousands, putting away all gods and lords, ancient tyranny for my sake. Thy soul shall be my talisman, deep engraven in the land and water of mountains. On this land alone shall not any lord nor god be established by the sword, for it is my land which I planned for the deliverance of the nations of the earth. The hosts of both the ships came and joined glee some reunion after 100 years, absence. And it came to pass that God traveled over the land and waters of the great west continent, and all the places that the Lord had searched out to the east and west and north and south, even to the farthest boundary, were revealed and recorded in the books of heaven. God said, and now my Lord shall mark out the place of dominion over Jehovah in the founding of his kingdom on earth, and a record of thy labors shall descend through the lords and gods that come after thee, even down to the time of the coming light of Cosmon. And the people who shall dwell here till that day shall never be worshippers of any lord or god, such as other people shall worship. Let my seal be put upon this land in the name of Jehovah, and to him I consecrate it forever. So after that time, God rested from his labors, and the Lord with him. And the Lord prepared a feast and reunion for all the angels in his dominions. And they thus assembled and sang and prayed and danced and conversed on things long past and things of the future, reassuring one another of their love and high esteem after the manner of mortals of this day. When the banquet was ended, God and his traveling hosts in due ceremony and order took their leave. Thus God departed, and when the ship of God was raised up and under the way, the voice of Jehovah came to God, saying, steer thy ship, my son, around about over all the other lands and islands and waters of earth. Go low down to the earth, that thy recording angels may witness the affairs of men in all the places I created on earth and the waters of the earth. Thus God visited all places on land and water, even where man lived not, as well as where he lived, and the angels made a record thereof in the books of heaven. And the time of the journey and the visits of God to the places of earth and her heavens was 1 year and 7 days, and his rest was completed. So he sent messengers to Horeb, his heavenly kingdom, announcing the time of his coming, and he then set sail thereof. Chapter 12. When it was known in Horeb that God was about to return, Hajjah put all things in readiness for God's reception. And there volunteered 10,000 musicians and 5,000 bearers of banners, 1,000 marshals and officers of the throne, and 100,000 receivers to go part way and meet God and his companions. And Jah granted their prayers, and they started once, being the most majestic host that had as yet gone forth in the lower heaven. And when they were a little way off, behold, God and his ship of fire approached in heavenly splendor, and the marshals met him and lay hold of the henva of the ship, whereon all the hosts did in like manner, save the musicians who sang and played. When they drew near, entered Horeb, Hajjah broke down from the high estate and left the throne, running to meet God as a child would run to his father. And when the multitude saw this, they broke loose from the decorous behavior and gave full vent to their outbursting love for God and his hosts. And all the people became as tumult in rivalry of rejoicing. In a little while, God and Hajjah turned and walked to the throne, ascending thereon, and Hajjah took his place, and God sat on his right and ordered rain. Hajjah said, in thy name, O Jehovah, I welcome thee back, thy first son of earth, to the kingdom thou hast bestowed upon him, and thy sons and daughters, as much as he hath gloried thee by his labors, by his wisdom and love, so do we honor him in thy name and thy glory. God said, in thy name, O Jehovah, do I return to thee my loves, that I return, I glorify thee, O my Father, that thou hast made them to rejoice is the glory of my life. And now a great light gathered up around the throne, so that many could not look thereon. And presently the power of Jehovah came up, Hajjah, and the voice of Jehovah spake through him, saying to God, this is again thy throne, O my son. Thou shalt finish that which I have put upon thee. Thy people shall learn the manner of my kingdoms, and know that even as I make all, so do I rule over all. Hang up thy traveling garb, my son, dismiss thy traveling hosts, and resume thy seat on the throne, for I gave it thee. The voice departed, Hajjah rose up and stood aside, and the light fell upon God. And he resumed the throne on and was hailed by the multitude in Jehovah's name. God said to Jehovah, because thou hast prospered my kingdom during 1 whole year, thou shalt be my companion and assistant, whose power and wisdom to superintend all matters not direct with my lords. Behold, this day I have set apart as a new day in heaven and earth, because on this day the sun taketh its course for the Haddah north line, and from this time forth it shall be called the New Year's Day. So shall it be from this time forth, the day of relief watched in horde. Hear my voice, O Hajjah, and yea, of the council of the throne of heaven. That which I commanded shall ye proclaim throughout heaven and earth to all who serve me. Because of the increase of the kingdom of Horde, I will have the place enlarged, and the council shall no longer be called a council, but Moab. For it shall be as assembly over all my councils below it. And Moab shall no longer deal with the affairs of individuals, even though thy be lords, but it shall have dominion with the cities and kingdoms of heaven, and with judgments and decrees. But in all manners of less degree, this my son, Hajjah, shall have dominion. And thou, O Hajjah, shalt build thee a house in Horde, near this throne, and it shall be thy house and place of thy business. Really interesting. Chapter 13. So God enlarged the place of Horde and built 1,000 more pillars of fire, enlarging the circle and otherwise making it a place of splendor. And God called together the recorders from the libraries of heaven and caused them to select 100,000 new members for the house of Moab parliament, choosing them from the highest of the lists. In this matter, God said, seek not the most learned nor the most prayerful for members, but choose ye such a rank highest in assimilating to Jehovah and to their followers. For such are the first to become God and goddesses. Jehovah saith, a strong man may do more good works than a weak one, and yet the latter may stand fairer in my sight. I open the way to the weak and the strong, to learn and to unlearn. God said, in all these matters, whatever man or woman hath put away self-desires for self's sake, serving the Father by laboring for others, is on the road to wisdom. And if the records show a sufficient time for growth in such man or woman, whereby these virtues become organic, then choose ye that person, for such shall be Moab. So the laborers gathered from the heavens around about Angie, and built Moab within suitable for the members to be seated according to their rank. And when it was finished on that same day, the recorders brought the new members, and they went into the temple to their respective places. And when seated, God spake from the throne, saying to thee, O Jehovah, have I built the house of Moab in Horde, and by thy wisdom have I chosen the members thereof. To thee, O Father, I dedicate this house, and it shall be thy house. Give us of thy light, O Jehovah, that we may not err. A light descended from the heavens above and fell upon the members of Moab as a symbol of approval by the archangels. And presently the new members rose up, every one of their own accord, but the old members remained seated. God said, above your heads I make the sign of Jehovah's name in a circle of fire, and the cross of the leaf of life. For by it are ye sworn to the Father's labor. Hear me then, O my beloved. Ye are henceforth denied individual ministration with individuals, but ye are now become a unit with many, and with these must your labor and your love and your wisdom be in the concert of action. Henceforth must ye no longer say, what can I do for this man or that man, or this woman or that woman, or this child or that child? For this is individual labor, and on earth such ministration belongeth to the Ashars, and in atmosphere such ministration belongeth to the SFs. But ye shall minister to organic communities who are composed of individuals, for there are communities for factories, and others for education, and others for treatment of the sick, and such communities exist both on earth and in heaven. Ye shall divide yourselves into groups for the for the purpose, and every group shall have its special business in charge, and each group shall stand in Moab as the member of Jehovah's judgment seat. According to your talents shall ye divide and group together, choosing such department wherein each one hath the greatest wisdom and strength. Withdraw then from thus complete your groups according to the rates my proper officers will assign, and then return again into Moab, and in Jehovah's name take the seats allotted to you all. Chapter 14. On the second day after the house of Moab was completed, and all the members were in their respective places, Jehovah spake through God, saying, now is the beginning of the second resurrection. Even as a corporean putteth off the corporeal body, and is born a spirit, becoming the first resurrection, so are ye putting away individual self and becoming an organic community, the beginning of the second resurrection. As they of the first are for individual self, so have I bound them close on the face of the earth, as they survived on the earth, on corporeal food. So have I made them to survive in the lowest heaven on atmospheric food. As Moab has risen above these conditions, so will I exalt the foundations of the house of Moab higher up from the earth than Horeb. And Moab shall be the lowest house of my kingdom. The voice of Jehovah departed, and God saluted Ahijah in the name of the Father, and of a great light enveloped the house of Moab, and the ensuers chanted a hymn of praise. Thereafter God arose and stood in the throne of Jehovah, saying, hear ye, O all ye people of heaven, above and below. The house of Moab in the beginning of the second resurrection is founded in Jehovah's name. Proclaim ye the words that have gone out of my mouth to the east and west and north and south, and to the swift messengers of the arcs of the firmament above. Glory, glory be to Jehovah, boundless and almighty, creator, present and full of love, wisdom and power. Glory to thee forever and ever. Amen. The house of Moab chanted a proclamation. The swift messengers assumed their respective globes of light and began to ascend in every direction, carrying the word to the exalted spheres. The God crowned Ahijah as sub-god of Horeb, and he was proclaimed to all the quarters of heaven and earth. And the history of his name exists to this day as Jah amongst mortals. Ahijah said with the exclamation of Moab, so shall my places be exalted before Jehovah. Let the enumerators of the communities of heaven send representatives before me. The communities of manufacturers who produce food and clothes for the Assyrians, the communities for hospitals and nurseries, the communities for education, the communities for training messengers, and all other communities. When the representatives came, according to the instructions of the marshals, and were before the throne, Ahijah said, the toilers shall not be always toilers, the physicians not always runners after the sick. Whosoever is proficient will I exalt. He that can walk shall no longer crawl. Many are wise and strong, and some have passed beyond the boundary of self-desires for self's sake. A child may not have self-desires, but when in lacketh wisdom and strength, a full-grown man or woman may have wisdom and strength, but lack in the aberrant abnegation of self. I will make every community a double from this time forth, and one shall be called Mag, and the other shall be called Minga. Maga shall be my promoted laborers who are being prepared for the second resurrection. And Maga's labor shall be in concert with Moab, the house of Jehovah. But Minga's labor shall be of heretofore, even with individual affairs and the organizing of new places for the delivered Assyrians, who are the fruit of the Lord's and their kingdom on the earth. Let my marshals select judges to carry out these decrees in my name of Jehovah. Sorry, I had to laugh there. Chapter 17. 16. Sorry, I skipped 15. I didn't say 15. Now we're on 16. From the founding of Hord until the installment of Hajjah was 130 years, and at the time of the lower kingdom of heaven was fully organized according to the decree of Jehovih. And the kingdoms of the lords on earth were also fully established. And at that time the earth had passed into Hoshi in the Etherian space, where dwell the Osiran Shivras, to whom the swift messengers from God had reported the condition of earth's surface and the tablets of grade and ingrade of mortals. The Shivras said, the earth hath not obtained her fullness. The gases of her low regions must be purified to make more places for mortals. So it came to pass there fell upon the earth by command of the Shivras, by the will of Jehovah, fire and brimstone and iron and phosphorus, and the shower thereof reach into the 5 divisions of the earth. But the fall thereof God was appraised, and his appraised the lords, and they informed the Ashars, and they impressed such mortals as were in rapport with heavenly things, and the chosen marched away from the places of destruction, so that not one perished. But many of the Assuans were consumed in the fire. But God sent extra workmen and surgeons and physicians from heaven down to such spirits as were falling into forgetfulness and dissolution, and commanded that they be engrafted on the surviving Assuans for pity's sake. And this was accomplished through the lords of the earth and their servants, the Ashars. At the end of 200 years, God enumerated the people in the lower heaven, and they were, besides the spirits of the fetals, many whom were doubtful as to everlasting life, 296 million souls. Of this number, they had been raised up to the grade of brides and bridegrooms to Jehovah, more than 30 million, who were the first of the earth's production. And now was the 6th generation of the seed of the fallen angels delivered, and this was the fullness of earth's bondage for them. God summoned the house of Moab for the revelations of Jehovah on the first day of the first year of Dan of Honshi. And when they were this assembled and had chanted Jehovah appropriate anthems for the times past, the all light came upon God, and he said, behold, the time of Dan of Hoshi is at hand. 3 days pass by, the hosts from the Etherian heavens were descended to accomplish the resurrection of my hosts to the regions whence they came 200 years ago. Summon my lords of the earth, and my people of heaven proclaimed my words unto them. Ye that people the earth with everlasting life, give ear, the harvest of the new year is ripened. It shall be gathered into the heavens above. Let my people rejoice, for the glory of deliverance is at hand. There awaiteth full of hope and love in Assyrian fields hosts of angels and archangels to receive these, the first fruits of the new earth. Clothe them in quietness with the rays of light. Make ready, for the Etherian gods and goddesses are setting sail in the regions above to come and deliver us. Proclaim my words in all places in the name of Jehovah, and add unto them, saying, and to as many as desire to ascend, come ye to Moab in the name of the Son of Jehovah. Messengers went forth both in heaven and on earth, and proclaimed as had been commanded. And on the 3rd day they assembled in Moab, and horde 90 million angels to witness the descending and ascending of Jehovah's chosen. And the archangels of Hoshi sent 100,000 gods and goddesses to guard Moab and horde around about, to dispel and keep away the clouds and sunshine, so as to add glory to the scene. And we're going to end on chapter 17. The Luas came before God and have organized themselves into one community, so as to make it lawful to speak to Moab. They appointed Gawaza to speak on behalf of the community. Gawaza said, hear me, O God, in the name of Jehovah. Thou hast ordained me, according to the custom of heaven, to be a master of generations with mortals. And yet one generation is incomplete, wherefore I have come before thee. This day I have summoned by Jehovah through thy messengers, saying, to as many as desired to enter the next resurrection, come, for the time of harvest is at hand. Thus said God, son of Jehovah, behold, now another generation do I desire to dwell on earth. God said, the places of heaven are open to all. If thou wouldest ascend now, do even so. If thou wilt tarry one generation, then thou shalt tarry 200 years. For of such period will be the next harvest. Gawaza said in Jehovah's name, let my brethren pass before thee in judgment. God said, Jehovah's will be done. Gawaza withdrew and went and told his brethren what was said, and presently they came in and passed judgment before God. God said, thou hast said, let me pass in judgment before thee. Hear me then, for this is my judgment. If thou ascend with thy work incomplete, thou wilt be the unhappiest of men. Remain therefore for a greater glory in which thy reach. The Luas passed to the left, signifying their determination to tarry yet 200 years more with mortals. After the Luas came others desiring to be adjudged by God, and to all who having completed work, God said, remain, and they remained. Besides these were 70,000 Etherians eligible to ascend, who volunteered and remained with mortals another 200 years. Amongst these were the 5 lords of Hajjah, and 400 messengers belonging to Horeb, and 700 women in Fatal, in the western division of Horeb, under Waga, Lord of Waga. So we're going to leave it there. Happy Flag Day. It's we, not me. It's the truth. It's about all of us. And this section is really interesting because it kind of shows you what MAGA really means. Or one interpretation of the meaning, because it means a lot of different things. So I hope you all enjoyed that section of Oahspe. If you have it in your hearts to help me, that'd be amazing. If not, please don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and share, because there's a lot of suppression going on, because in the middle of things, I speak truth and they don't want you to know it. So that's what's been going on. So until the next time, I hope everybody has an amazing day. Sending each and every one of you love and light, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.